collected a massive parlay with total odds of 10. Let's break it down. First pick, Crystal Palace versus Rayo Vallecano, and honestly I found a very interesting angle here because a lot of people are expecting a cautious final with defensive football and very few chances. But personally, I see it completely different. To me, this game has everything needed for an open and entertaining match, because the styles of these teams fit high-scoring scenario perfectly. And I'll start with Crystal Palace, because it's obvious the English side spent the entire end of their season fully focused on this Conference League run. Palace lost motivation in the Premier League a long time ago, so their winless streak honestly doesn't bother me at all. You could clearly see Glasner rotating players, managing fitness, and keeping the core fresh specifically for Europe. And whenever the Eagles switched into full gear, they looked extremely dangerous. Just look at the 3-0 against Fiorentina, or the confident performances against Shakhtar, where Palace perfectly exploited open space and completely destroyed opponents in transition. And against Rayo, that same formula could work perfectly, again because the Spanish side simply don't know how to park the bus. They lose possession football, push their defensive line high, and try to play brave attacking football. But again, this Crystal Palace team, that could become a huge issue. Mateto, Sarr, and Pino are extremely dangerous against teams that leave space behind. Plus, there is another massive factor: Wharton's return. He is the player responsible for progressive passing and building attacks from deep. And with him, Palace become way more dangerous in vertical football. But at the same time, I absolutely don't think Rayo are doomed here. On the contrary, the Spaniards are fully capable of causing huge problems for the favorites. You don't go unbeaten in 9 straight matches by accident. The team is genuinely in great form and mentally looks extremely confident. Rayo scored in 13 of their 14 Conference League matches. That's a massive statistic. Plus, Alvaro Garcia is back, one of the fastest players in the squad, and he's perfect for games where space is likely to appear. Overall, their attack is very good too. The Frutos Palazzo constant movement between the lines, quick combinations, and the ability to consistently create chances. Guys, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post match breakdowns every single day and always try to keep my subscribers in progress. I am also always open to fair criticism and your own betting opinions in the comments. I read all of them. Guys, here's my Telegram and my stats. I work as transparently and honestly as possible. I even pay taxes as an individual entrepreneur. I am one of the few in this space who actually works openly and fairly. The link is in the description below. But the visitors do have defensive problems. And honestly, that's what interests me most here. Crystal Palace are exactly the kind of team that punish mistakes immediately, especially when matches become open. And I'm almost certain this one opens up sooner or later. For Rayo, this is literally the match of their lives and their only realistic chance to qualify for Europe. For Palace, it's an opportunity to finish the Glasner story with another trophy. That's why I'm really struggle to believe in a cautious 0-0 first half, especially when the stats directly point toward goals. Palace scored in 11 of their last 12 Conference League games, while Rayo scored in 13 of 40. The XG numbers are strong too. Palace averaged over 2 expected goals per game in the tournament, while Rayo sit around 1.8. So both teams genuinely create chances. They didn't randomly stumble into the final. Another important thing: Palace never really show games down even when leading. The Eagles keep pressing and continue punishing mistakes, so even an early goal doesn't necessarily kill the game. And if Rayo score first, the match could explode even more. Honestly, I just don't see a scenario for boring football here. That's why for the parlay I'm comfortably taking over 2 goals. And for the crazy odds version, I'm going with Palace win plus under 4.5 goals at 2.1. Second pick, Union Brescia versus Salernitana. And here I found another really interesting angle, because a lot of people are focusing too much of the semi-final status and expecting an ultra-cautious game, while forgetting one important detail. Both teams already showed in the first leg that they can create chances and break each other down. But despite that, I still don't expect some insane 4 or 5 goal shootouts here. Quite the opposite action. I see a very tense, tight match, balanced on a knife edge. And I'll start with Union Brescia, because at home they look extremely organized right now. Their recent stretch of form has been really impressive, especially defensively. Over their last 5 matches, they've conceded just 0.2 goals per game on average, which is an insane number of playoff football where every mistake can end your season. And you can clearly see it in recent performances. They comfortably beat Catania 3-0 at home, then in the return leg simply controlled the game, slowed the tempo, and allowed absolutely nothing. This is a team capable of adapting to situations. And that's extremely important before a second leg like this. Even in the first match against Salernitana, where they had to chase the game, Union never collapsed mentally and managed to equalize in the 90 plus 1 minute. Those late comebacks hit opponents psychologically really hard, especially in playoff football. And now I honestly feel the psychological advantage sits with the hosts. But at the same time, underestimating Salernitana would be a huge mistake. They handled the previous round extremely confident. 2 straight 2-0 wins over Ravenna with basically zero drama. Overall, their attacking numbers are solid too, averaging around 1.8 goals per game over the last 5 matches. But there is an important nuance. Almost all of Salernitana's best performances came against teams that allowed them space. Against more organized opponents, they suddenly look far less comfortable. And we saw that clearly in the first game against Union Brescia. After taking the lead, Salernitana became way too cautious and still couldn't protect the advantage. And to me, that's the key point of this second leg. The hosts don't need to fly forward immediately. They know how to play pragmatically, how to slow the game down, and they rarely allow chaos around their own box. Salernitana, meanwhile, will eventually need to open up if the score stays 0-0 or 1-0 for too long. But overall, I still don't expect a super open game. This is a semi-final, the price of mistakes is massive, and both teams have recently shown a preference for controlled football. The stats point that way too. Union Brescia currently have one of the best defensive setups at this stage of the season, while most of Salernitana's victories also came through controlled, low-risk football. So I really don't like our bets here. I am seeing something like 1-0, 1-1, or maybe 2-1 at most, and that's exactly why my pick fits perfectly. For the parlay, I'm comfortably taking 1x plus under 4.5 goals because Union Brescia will be extremely reliable at home and are unlikely to lose this in regular time. And for the riskier angle, I really like 1x plus under 2.5 goals at 2.2. Another game I broke down more as a single, but it can absolutely be added to the parlay too. Catania vs Ascoli. And honestly, I found a really interesting angle here, because after the first match, a lot of people already seem ready to send Catania home. But personally, I still think the hosts will try to produce a very aggressive response in the second leg. The real question is whether they are actually capable of turning this tie around. And honestly, I have huge doubts about that, because the first game wasn't just a defeat for Catania. It was a complete collapse. Losing 0-4 isn't about bad luck anymore. It's about a massive gap in quality on the night. And most importantly, the stats fully supported the result too. This wasn't a case of Ascoli stealing goals on counters or massively overperforming their chances. No. They were generally better in every department. And now Catania also have a huge psychological issue. They haven't won in 7 straight matches, and for a playoff semi-final, that's a terrible sign. Even in the previous round against Lecco, there were serious problems. A 0-0 at home, then a crazy 3-3 in the return leg, where they conceded the equalizer in the 82nd minute. Yeah, Catania advanced eventually, but even there, you could already see how unstable they become defensively under pressure. And now they're facing an Ascoli side that looks far more organized and calm. Their series against Potenza was very telling too. First a careful 0-0, then a pragmatic 1-0 away win, where they simply controlled the situation perfectly. And after that they completely destroyed Catania in the first semi-final. The key thing for me here is that Ascoli have absolutely no reason to rush forward now. They already hold a huge aggregate lead and can comfortably play on the counter. Meanwhile, Catania have no choice but to attack from the first minute, because there is nothing left to lose. And that exact scenario suits Ascoli perfectly. This team knows how to suffer, wait for mistakes, and exploit space extremely efficiently. The head-to-heads don't favor the host either. Ascoli avoided defeat in 10 of the last 12 meetings, while Catania constantly draw against them at home. So even the home field factor doesn't feel overwhelming here. And most importantly, I simply don't believe Catania are capable of producing a perfect performance after getting smashed 0-4. Honestly, the more the hosts open up, the more space Ascoli will get for their attacks. And considering Catania's defensive form lately, the chances of Ascoli scoring at least once feel extremely high, especially because Ascoli consistently create chances and average of 1.2 goals per game recent. So for the parlay, I'm comfortably taking an Ascoli goal. And if we are thinking about a riskier option, then 2x plus over 1.5 goals at 2.15 looks very strong to me.